Oh, yeah, easy question. Okay, we had this discussion in the car. Mark picked me up halfway between Pittsburgh and here, and we had a long discussion about this because his undergraduate major was physics. Um, David Bohm, since passed, but a premier quantum physicist, was a very dear friend of the Dalai Lama. They're very close friends. And he used to say there's no objective reality. If you look at the writings of the Buddha, of Nagarjuna, who followed him about, anywhere from 600 to 800 years later, Chandrakirti another 400 years later, to Tsongkhapa in the 13th, 14th century, 14th, 15th century, early 15th century, to His Holiness the Dalai Lama today, they all say no objective reality. And when you begin to discuss that, what does it mean? You find that very similar understanding of what that means in terms of what is real and what's not. And most importantly, it's our ego, because that's the one that gets us all into all the trouble. Okay, we take things to be threats and we push them away. We get upset. We get angry. We take things to be helpful and we bring them towards us. Okay, and both of those maneuvers get us a little out of balance because we overdo it. Too much this or too much that. Okay, and so that's kind of a rough, beginning. Schrodinger's cat thought experiment. You take two steel boxes and put a cat inside. Thought experiment. And you have with the cat a piece of radioactive material, and the half-life of it decaying is the same as your experimental period. So let's say a minute for both. Your experiment goes for a minute. In a minute, the half-life is 1 minute of this radioactive material. 50% chance it'll decay, 50% chance it won't. It's connected to a vial of strong acid. If it decays, it'll knock over that acid, killing the cat. If it doesn't decay, it won't. The cat will be alive. From the perspective of quantum physics, the cat is in a state of what they call superposition. Both dead and alive, both, unobserved. Okay. If you open the thing up, you observe, then the cat is either dead or alive. You can determine when you open the steel boxes, right? Okay. So the observer has so much to do with reality, superposition or not, both dead and alive or dead or alive. Huge difference in terms of reality. Double slit experiment. A beam of photons or electrons, kind of small stuff, right? You eject these things, electrons or photons, to a metal plate that has two slits. And behind it is a screen. So if you put a camera right at the level of the two slits, you're observing which slit does the electron or the photon go through. The pattern you get on the screen that's behind is two lines, meaning that what went through are particles. If you remove the observer, that camera or whatever was observing, okay, the device, and you do the same thing with the electrons or the photons, the pattern you get on the screen is different. It's a interference pattern, suggesting that what went through the slits were waves. So depending on the observer, you radically change reality. Quantum physics. Buddhism says the same thing. Okay? The observer very much, maybe 50%, determines what's real. The existence of anything is determined by our labeling, our designating, So very young kids, infants, when they learn how to talk, 1-year-old or 2-year-olds, when they learn how to talk, they start saying, this is called table. This is called mama. This is called papa. And then what they start doing after repetition and maybe influence of the adults, this is table. This is mama. This is papa. You see the shift? Initially, they were right, actually. This is only called a table. It's not a table. We just give it the name table. So the mind has an important part to play in the existence of anything by labeling it. And then we bring all these preconceived notions into it unintentionally. You know? And then we have a whole panoply of, of something that's not real. We do that with ourselves all the time. We do that with others all the time. So if we could get out from under that ignorance, that delusion, that hallucination that things exist objectively and do not, have an influence through our mind, if we can get out from under that, we find deep peace, joy, love, wisdom. Now, the difference between these traditions, one of the differences is there's an ethical basis in Buddhism. It's all about relieving suffering. That's compassion, okay? It's all about that. And this wisdom stuff helps us because all of our suffering is based on that fundamental misapprehension, okay, that ignorance. So wisdom becomes a tool for compassion. In quantum physics, there are many, compassionate physicists, but it's not built into the system. Ethics is not built into the system.